Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the ET Stand, the Cronulla Sharks fan podcast, where we let our talking do the football. Here we are for another episode of classic Cronulla Chronicles. This time in round 10 of the 2024 season, we're playing our arch nemesis from 2016, 2008, 2018, 1998 when they stole Tawera Nick office, the dastardly Melbourne Storm. And what better way to celebrate that occasion, or that opportunity, than to go back to round 6 of 2017 when we had a momentous win at Amy Park. We'll shout out two of our trusty viewers. We'll love all of their attention and their comments they made last week. It was Alan and another guy called Steep, or girl, whoever that is, called Steep Descent, that called out and requested the 2008 Olympic Park match involving a double send-off and a Brett Kamali field goal. We'll keep that up our sleeve for next time. But thanks, guys. We love the commitment. We have done two 2008 Classic matches so far, so we're trying to share the love around through our rich history. But here we are, 2017, as I fade out the music of David Bolderman, live from London. He's just flown in via, I don't know, it was Heathrow, Gatwick, Luton, whichever one it was. Anyway, he's in London now. Heathrow. He's not in New York anymore. He's
not in New York. He's live from London.
Not in Kansas anymore. Here we are.
Not in Kansas, from Cronulla Shire. What is it? South Cronulla boating legend Matthew Bruce's place in London. He's got a nice looking background set up. But yes,
he does.
We do a lot of. We love the 2008 season on the ET stand. That is a good one. But this one, I particularly remember this match. This was actually the last match that I saw live in Australia. Watch this one down at Northies. Watch this one down at Northies with you, Mr. Matthew, didn't I? We did. Rare Northies watch for you and I. We don't do that too often. I think this might be the only one we've ever done together at Northies. I remember doing one down at Northies with Lats where we beat the Broncos, which was another one we might match review. But this match is a terrific one. I tell you what, I love doing these classic Cronulla Chronicles and just going back and looking back at the past teams. Do yourself a favour, and this one's on the NRL.com. You can watch the full match review, or the full match. It's just so much fun to just see this team, and I will say, goodness, how good is this team? Like, I know we think that the current team's pretty good. This team was better than that team. So
we'll have a look at it in a sec. Hot on the heels of 2016, but you're right. It's the last time I think I was at Northies. Maybe there was one other occasion in the last 7 years since then. It was pretty momentous in that, most importantly, I just had my Bucks party down the coast that weekend and was very dusty back in the Shire before making my way back to where I lived in Newcastle the following day. So I was via Sydney, and you were about to depart to New York to live and work there for quite a while, for well over a year. So it was your final. I think it was your final match at home.
It was the final match. Whilst I was in Australia. Yes, so I had a whole bunch of buddies down there, and we all went around and watched and saw the Sharks play the Storms.
It was a great atmosphere. Everyone was still up and about after the 2016 grand final. Had a great buzz about it, and the game did not disappoint. We'll talk about it in a sec, but so early 2017, and we might, I suppose, rip in, and have a look at those lineups or the form guide.
Have a look at the form coming into it, Williams.
The form.
You make the slide, so you should know the order of them.
I should. I'm just getting ahead of myself here. I want to critique Gerard Beale versus Ben Barber, but spoiler alert. Anyway, so Melbourne, red hot side, start of the season in first. The big change for them we'll see in their lineup is Billy Slater is back, up and about and carving up, and they were just beating all comers. They opened the season with a scratchy 12-6 win over the Bulldogs, but then they put the Warriors to the sword, got past the Broncos. They refer to in commentary, the Channel 9 commentary, the replay of this game, if you watch on NRL.com, about how rusty they were versus the Tigers, but then they really upped the ante against the Panthers, who were in the famous 5-year rebuild, or the 5-year plan under Gus Gould's general managership, and I think they refer to in this game that against the Panthers, that is, the week before, that Melbourne had 40% of possession. The Panthers had so many repeat sets on their line, and they still gave up one try. Classic Melbourne stifling fashion, and then turned around and scored 4 or 5 long-range tries and snuffed that game out. So they were red hot. They hadn't lost.
Of course, Matthew, the last competitive match that the Storm had lost was the 2016 grand final
The events
against the
of
Sharks.
October 2, 2016. Yes, so what could possibly go wrong for Melbourne here? In that they were short price favourites. The Sharks were up and down. We'll look at their form. So the week before they were playing the Knights, and I remember that game very well. Living in Newcastle at the time, the Knights had a bit of newfound vigour and excitement around their side. They were on their way to another wooden spoon, I think, the poor buggers. But we were up 18-6 late. And then we gave up 2 quick tries to be 18 all before, I believe
That's
it
the
was.
Sharks.
I can't remember if it was Maloney or Townsend, but someone popped a field goal to give us a very shaky home win on a Saturday afternoon.
No,
there.
it was Maloney.
Maloney, there you go. So 19-18 there. Preceding weeks, we beat Parramatta convincingly at ANZ Stadium, as I think it was known as at the time, at Homebush, because their CommBank Stadium was being rebuilt. Pertac, as was known at the time. The Dragons beat us at home in a very, very poor showing, that one, I remember. It was a big Sunday afternoon crowd, a lot of excitement around it, especially after the week before against Canberra. You see that score there. But
which was the first home game? Was it Raiders or?
It was Broncos, actually. It was Broncos Thursday night. Thursday night, round 1, we opened the season
the
there.
Sharks just came out of the Sharks just this season, after the damn can't see the point of the ball in the World Club Challenge, which still irks me. They were just a bit not quite all there, the Sharkies, were they?
Well, twofold. So that was I remember talking to you and everyone else that we know in and around the club before round 1. It was the weirdest feeling ever and it was a big crowd on a Thursday night.
We just didn't care anymore.
No one cared. We'd won the comp. We were still partying. We're like, the season, the off season was the shortest ever, which was a good thing. But we were like, I was almost like, I actually don't know if I want the season to start. Let's just let this party keep rolling. That means we have to give the trophy back, unless we win it again, of course. But it was, I remember distinctly that match on that Thursday night. We kicked off and we pushed the Broncos back in goal to force a line dropout. And maybe I had a bit of swagger and lip about me, so I sent a message to a good mate who's a Broncos fan he was talking up how good the Broncos were that season. And maybe I put the mock on us and said, oh, that was a great start. Here comes the premiership defence. And then we kind of hung in and around that match, but the Broncos kicked on late with a late, I think it was a late try to Corey Oates off a suspect pass in the corner, and then they kicked the goal from the sideline to put out to an 8-point unassailable lead. So
that's right. I remember the goal. I remember the goal kick from the unassailable lead. Thinking, damn it.
Yeah, a bit of a fizzer, and it was first game without Ben Barber, and we had Gerard Beale at the back, and Valentine Holmes was out injured. Also, first game without Michael Ennis, so it was like, okay, the party's over.
Yeah, the party. Yeah.
The party did continue the following week, though, in Canberra. I do remember this one was a warm Saturday night down there, watching on the Fox coverage. Michael Ennis had joined the team, and Mark Gasnier, who was part of the Fox coverage at the time, tipped Canberra by 40, and Mick Ennis straight away stepped in and said, "We didn't tip us at all last year, so how'd that go for you?" Sharks by 40, and lo and behold, after a close first half, I think it was 8-all at halftime, just carved up in the second half. Wade Graham with a hat-trick and a really good win there. So that was the highlight. That showed what the team could do.
The Wade Graham hat-trick game where I think he scored 2 of the tries at least running backwards the way Wade Graham
He distinctly did. His third try actually was just a dive over from dummy half, but the other 2, you're right, was
the other 2 were running. Wade Graham run backward tries.
Hit and spin, run backwards, dive, and put it down. So, a good win there. And also, the Raiders were really billing that game as the big kind of, okay, this is the rematch after we beat them in week 1 of the 2016
they were still smarting from that, and then they got pumped. I think this just shows that the Sharks coming into this, they could still play, and they were still a really good team, that they just thought that they would just get to the semi-finals again and roll over teams. And when the Storm turned up, they were certainly ready for this match, and Gould called it out in the commentary. Should we look at the teams?
Absolutely. I'll get the music going, but we'll have a quick look. So we'll start with the Melbourne side, I suppose, being the home ones, but here we go. So Melbourne Storm. Billy Slater, the fullback, is back from injury. The wingers, Vunivalu and former Shark, Addo Carr. The centres, Will Chambers, future Shark there, and young Tonamapia. The halves, Riley Jacks and Cooper Cronk, who has recently, just before this match, joined the Sydney Roosters, or announced he'd be leaving. The front row, Tim Glasby, Captain Cameron Smith, and Big Nelson Asofa Solomona. The back row, Felice Kafusi, Kenny Bromwich, and future Shark, Dale Finucane. The bench, Joe Stimson, Mark Nichols, Jordan McLean, and Christian Welch, and the coach since 2003 for them, Craig Bellamy. While here we are, the Sharks, the back three of Valentine Holmes, Sasai Feki, and Gerard Beale, the centres, Jack Bird and Ricky, the grand final tackle, Latelli, the halves, Maloney and Townsend, the front row of Fafita and Pryor with Jaden Brayley on his 21st birthday in between, the back row, Luke Lewis, Wade Graham, Captain Paul Gallen, that legendary bench of Jason Bakuya, Chris Heinington, and two new faces on there, Jeremy Lattimore, James Seguiaro, the coach, Shane Flanagan.
Well, we're missing Tagatese on the bench.
We are.
Who's the other grand final player that was on the bench?
Gerard Beale, who is in the starting lineup. So,
of course, Gerard Beale's in the starting lineup. Thought I'd get you on that one.
Yeah, no. Well, who are we missing from there? So, obviously, we mentioned Ben Barber and
Ben Barber. It just hurts every time we look at these teams. You do notice that, like, looking at this team versus the 2016 grand final team, like, in terms of most of the players are about the same. Jack Bird, I think, is better by the time this match rolls around. And I think Wade Graham is also better than the grand final Wade Graham. But the rest of them are pretty much the same. We lose a little bit with having not having Ennis. But we kind of, with playing Brayley and Seguiaro, we get as much as that. But that's costing two players rather than one.
You're right.
Obviously, Holmes is not as good as Barber. Sorry, Franco, he's not.
True, Holmes is very different. He's also employed in a different position. So there was talk of, similar to the Matt Rogers conundrum, that he was the world's best winger. He wanted to play further in close to the ball. Should have been playing 5'8" for us. Should still be playing 5'8" for us, but didn't because John Lang wouldn't move him. Same too with the Valentine Holmes thing here. I remember he started the season injured. He missed the World Club Challenge. So I'm not sure how he got the injury.
We had Beale on the World Club Challenge. We had Beale at fullback. And we had Capewell, and I'm not even sure if we had Feki.
Feki was injured as well. We had Jesse Ramian. So Jesse Ramian's debut was in the World Club Challenge, as was Jaden Brayley's debut, with, you're right, Kurt Capewell on the wing and the point of the ball incident. But so Holmes, it was that classic chat of you've put him at fullback, but he's the world's best winger at the time. You're losing something in attack there. So that's why I suppose we had the season starting with Gerard Beale, both covering for Holmes' injury, but also playing at fullback. And there was chat there as to whether do you switch him around, where's Holmes better. I think his manager was trying to upgrade him to be, and ultimately that's what did occur, to say, hey, he's a fullback, but Holmes was unproven there. And you look even at the Cowboys now, he is, I suppose, a centre. I never thought he'd transition to be a centre, but there he is. So
since his running back days, he's been a little bit bigger. But I think it's worth calling out. They call it out in the commentary that more than half of the Sharks' tries this season have come down the left-hand side, which was the Maloney, Wade Graham, Latelli, Feki side.
It was, yeah.
It's so the other side without Holmes on the edge there, and obviously with Chad, lacking. They're just kind of lacking a little bit, and so that took a little bit of punch out of the Sharks team.
Even just looking from memory, even just no research, just going off the back of my head, quite a few of Barber's tries came, like I'm thinking the Dragons game at home, the Knights game where we won 62-0 came from Barber chiming into the back line on the right and then either going through himself or playing in Holmes for a try. So you've lost two key parts there in the Barber influence and the Holmes finishing or attacking focal point. So, it was unbalanced, I'd say, but still, maybe not this match, but Fafita, I think, got even better in 2017, like moving into Origin 1. And Origin 1, I believe he got man the match and was just unstoppable.
Yeah, he wasn't scoring that stupid number of tries, though, was he?
No, he wasn't, but he scored in Origin, and he was, that first half of the first game was unstoppable.
He was in good form in that, that's true.
Yeah, so that was before the injury started.
Fafita got better. Yeah, Fafita got Bird and Graham.
Matt Pryor was great.
Yeah, which are kind of the pretty important players in this team, really, aren't they? But
Yeah.
Ben Barber and Michael Ennis are two massive players. Like, they would be pretty much the 2016 versions of them would be like the two best players of most teams. So that is a lot for us to
Yeah.
lose. And then looking at the Storm team, they are noticeably better. Well, they were missing Munster for this match, weren't they? Was their big
Munster
out.
was injured, and they'd obviously lost Blake Green, who was their 5'8" in the grand final. I'm not sure where he went to, whether did he go to Warriors and then Manly. Yeah, so he was gone. Maybe
I don't think he was at Warriors yet. He was a Warrior. He did Warriors in 2008.
2008, he played for us.
Not 2008. Anyway, no, 2018. I'm thinking of what's the one where what was the one where he's playing for the Warriors and he beat the Storm and we.
Maybe that was
that was Michael. No, I'm thinking of Michael Witt. That
was Michael. You're right, Michael.
Okay, that was Michael Witt. No, Blake Green. Because Blake Green wasn't that good and wouldn't have scored a try that was that good or iconic. Yeah, maybe he was Warriors later. I think he was Warriors later. But then she's looking at the rest of this Storm team. God, it's good, isn't it?
Either way, Riley Jacks, no discredit to him, he is not Blake Green and he's definitely not Cameron Munster. But what they gained in having Billy Slater at fullback, as is seen throughout the entire 2017 season, all I can keep saying is how lucky were we.
Was this the year Billy Slater didn't get picked in game one, or was that later?
Yes, I believe so. It was. I think it was. Right. I can't confirm, but he obviously went through and he won the Clive Churchill. So how lucky we were for Billy Slater not to be involved in the 2016 season.
I reckon we lose if Billy Slater's in it because that pass at the end.
There was talk. So he had a shoulder injury. It was similar to the Matt Rogers injury in 2001.
They were talking about. I know they were talking about playing him.
They were talking about playing. They couldn't play him prior, but he just met appropriate fitness. Obviously maybe not match fitness, and it was too big a gamble. But gosh, if they put him in that grand final, it goes one of two ways, right? And I mean, he made his debut against us in 2003. Oh, and even in the wet here, you see, he's
Billy Slater.
So good. So yeah, you're right. Huge Melbourne Storm team. Their bench though, like obviously Mark Nichols eventually he's playing for the Dolphins. Well, at last look, but Souths.
I thought Mark Nichols was a cricket commentator.
Mark Nicholas, I think, is the.
It is Mark Nicholas.
Commentator. Yes, on the old
Channel
9 days. Yeah,
look at that. And then Shane Flanagan, current Dragons coach. Look at that. Oh, well. Yeah. What can you say about these teams? And they've got Tim Glasby as well. They're missing, because Corabetti left after the grand final, didn't he?
Yeah, Corabetti left immediately, so that's where they were joking with the high shot by Ennis, followed by the high shot about 5 minutes later by Corabetti. And they both got put on report. It's like neither of them could care less because they're off to retirement and rugby union,
that's right.
respectively. Vunivalu left to rugby union shortly after this as well. Looking at that, actually, they're missing obviously Jesse Bromwich in there as well. So they've got Kenny Bromwich there, but they're missing Jesse Bromwich. So I had a few outs.
Felice Kafusi was a good player around this time as well. Yeah, that's a pretty big, good pack.
He would score the winning try against us later in the year when we played them at home after we went ahead and someone whose name starts with D and ends in David Bolderman had sent a message saying, surely we can't lose from here, while watching from New York with about 30 seconds to go, that Chris Kelly and I both read at the same time and looked up and saw Kenny Bromwich streaking away to score with the siren sounding and us to Cronulla another Thursday evening. But anyway, that's
13.
Yes.
Oh, you digress. All right, we're going to get into the match. Anything else on the team?
We are. That's it. I think one bit of trivia for you. I'm wearing the same shirt this evening as Shane Flanagan was wearing for this match. So there you go. Styled by Shane Flanagan.
Fair enough. All right.
So we'll go through it. You may recall there wasn't much by way of scoring, but I don't know how many soccer fans or football fans, if you want to call it that way, have in the audience. Anyone who says a 0-0 draw is dour, clearly you've got to watch the match. And I remember there's some classic 0-0 draws.
This match is awesome.
It is like that. So do yourself a favour. If you have not seen this, check it out because it's probably, I'd actually argue, and I think Phil Gould does say this during the commentary, the most intense regular season match they've ever seen. Like, it's just both teams throwing themselves at each other in horrific conditions.
Absolutely going at each other. And the thing is, the thing that struck me about this match is, despite the fact it was wet weather and they had so many good on-field generals, they still wanted to attack and just go at each other. And you notice I thought the commentary of the match of this with Phil Gould and Andrew Johns, credit to them, they get hammered when they're bullfeds in the commentary. They are absolutely spot on with a lot of calls throughout this game. I think they get it absolutely right, like throughout the different elements, different moments of the match. So
Yeah, bang on. So don't be dissuaded by the score. I'll get you to hit the first slide. There is only one scoring play in the first half, and it's a Cameron Smith penalty goal in the 17th minute to put the Storm up 2-0, and that is it. And actually, from memory, I thought we went to halftime at 0-0, but we mentioned it in a previous episode recently. We went to halftime 0-0 against the Eels back in 2010. Obviously, I misremembered this one. Smith did get a penalty goal after a high shot from James Maloney, which he protested. It caused a fairly sizable melee with everyone coming in.
It was definitely a head-high tackle.
Well, looking at it, and live, looks like he takes his head off, and you're like, oh, here we go. And then actually he comes out, so Maloney comes out with the swinging arm, and
all right, he's got his blue goggles on. Okay, keep going.
No, but it bumps off the ball, and actually you do see Gus and Joey also actually looking at that. He's a bit unlucky given that it does make contact with the ball. It does go up. It does get, who was it on? Was it on Slater, I think? Anyway, straight, the tackle occurs. Slater goes down, but within about half a second, Nelson Solomona's picking up Maloney, and if it was back in the punching days, he would have been laying into him. Funnily enough, Finucane and Fafita are the fourth and fifth men in, and then basically the rest of the teams get in, and
it's just all on.
Progress from a while. But it was probably a testament to the match. These teams absolutely hated each other,
didn't they?
Yeah, and that it showed it
went
through.
at it.
Yeah, and
now, what about the 11th minute no try to the Sharks? Are we going to talk about that?
We are. So I've got my notes up now. We're going to go through that. So the conditions were terrible, but early on we applied pressure. We were playing dry weather football and holding the football bizarrely in these conditions, which the commentary were kind of highlighting, going, are the Sharks really, are they switched on today? But we forced a few repeat sets early. I remember Darren Lockyer actually saying after about 10 minutes going, Storm don't look involved in the game. The Sharks are bullying them, playing it down there.
Wade Graham really went at Cooper Cronk in this game.
Oh, every opportunity. Similar to the grand final, Wade Graham
really went at him.
was just sprinting out of the line, and only him and Cronk had no room to move. So after the first 10 to 15 minutes or so, Storm had a completion rate of 3 from 6. The Sharks had, I think it was 7 or 8 from 8 nil errors. We had 3 repeat sets, and they were referring in the commentary about how they'd interviewed Shane Flanagan pre-match, and he said you can't beat the Storm by going down and only spending one set on their line at a time there. You have to go down and apply pressure. Similar to the grand final where we're up 8-0, but we camped on their line. We were taking the same philosophy of play out the set, roll in the in-goal, smash them, go again. So they were doing that, which, watching that then, I'm now thinking in this day and age, looking at the current team with the amount of times we were caught on the last, the amount of times that we did get a repeat set, but then we give up not just us, but across the comp, a short restart. It's a different strategy these days. You can't really apply that. You can attempt to, but it's not as readily available an option to stifle teams like that.
With the 7?
Yeah, with the 7 tackle set. The 7 tackle set existed there. In the wet, it was handy. It was quite easy to put a grubber into the sodden in goals and then force them there. Also, too, the Sharks were flying out the line and forcing errors, and there was an incident that did happen. So, looking at the 11th minute where there was a scrum, and one pass off the scrum, the ball was given to Vunivalu. It took a little while in the scrum to clear. Wade Graham came flying out of the line, hit him. They dropped it, and we regathered and looked like we were going to score. The referee called it back.
We did score.
We basically did score, and they called it back and said that Graham had broken early. Yet the referee called out, and in the replays it showed that it was out before Graham had broken and put the hit on. So unlucky. The commentary were
the Sharks, if it was today, would the Sharks have challenged that and gotten the call? Maybe.
It's a really good point, possibly. And you can hear, because they actually have they replayed the referee's audio over the top of it, and you can hear him say, out, and that's when they break. It was a slow pass. I'm not sure who was. I think Cooper Cronk was the one feeding. I know the halfback's not always the one that does it these days, but it was a bit of an old school scrum, and it was a great play that we were unlucky not to get. Storm got plenty of relieving penalties at one stage in the first half. The penalty count was 6-2. The referees were Sutton and Matt Chechen.
Well, after that couple of sets you mentioned there, the Storm then got a whole bunch of consecutive sets, and the ball remained in play for a while, and the Sharks were kind of knocking them around and were on top.
Yes.
But then what did they get? The 40-20 in the lead up to the penalty goal.
16th minute.
And then it was interesting. I was thinking at the time, rewatching, I'm like, geez, they haven't had the ball here. I know I normally say take the 2. I said, I'd be tempted just because they needed to keep the ball. But they took the 2, and then actually there was another Sharks penalty off the kickoff for the Storm. So
yeah,
I was right again. The Storm were right to take the 2. Always take the 2, Matthew.
Yeah, well, I've got a point about taking the 2 or not taking the 2 in the second half, which the Storm didn't. But you're right about that 40-20 by Cronk. That was a real momentum turner. In that we had a great defensive set. We kept them inside their 30, and then the fourth from dummy half on the left, Cronk stepped out dummy half and just, as Joey said, drained a 30-10. It just sailed. I don't know if he had a breeze behind him or what, but it had a great bounce, and it was one of the best 40-20s I think I've ever seen. It caught Fecky out of position.
It was like a 30-10.
Yes, that's what they're saying. It was an easy 30-10. Actually, watching it, I thought it could have potentially been a 20-20, but Cronk was about 28 out from his line, and it went out about 9 metres out from our line. But it was a crossfield.
So we didn't mention this in the lineups. There's a lot of experience on this field with Slater, Smith, and Cronk, and then the Sharks guys with Lewis, Gallen, and Einington.
And you see Maloney as well with the big game play late on. So I suppose the difference here with this team, and maybe looking both at the form that they had going into it and the way they performed, Gus says pre-match or at the start of the coverage, like, we haven't seen much from the Sharks this year. They've kind of been in and out of games. They've shown it against Canberra. And then this game, about 20 minutes in, he's like, wow, they are flawless. This is why they won the grand final last year, guys. They are on. And Melbourne's obviously appealing enough to them to switch on and bring it up to the level that they need to be at. But anyway, so the Storm got that 40-20 and then that high shot and that penalty goal. So basically, it was set for set. We did have a few opportunities, including a one I'll talk about in a second, involving Jack Bird. I remember mention.
That one
so the one thing I did notice in the 23rd minute was almost identical to the grand final play, and I should have said at the start that I should have taken the challenge not to refer to the 2016 season at all, the grand final. But this game, it's impossible, right? I know that's your pet hate.
This game, it is impossible.
It's impossible. Anyway, on the fourth tackle...
So are you referring to the one where the Storm actually have the cover defence?
The Storm have the cover defence, but also Maloney steps off the right, very similar to his line break that he puts Luke Lewis through. And he just someone grabs his collar. He was in otherwise. He was about 20 metres out, and he just does that exact same play. It was further out on the right, so he didn't quite beat the same defenders or same positions in the line, but it was so close, and they're going, and I think even when the commentators go, it's like, oh, that was shades of that run. But in the 28th minute, they give a shout out. Sharks have completed 13 from 14. The Storm, initially 3 from 6, have now improved to 11 from 14, and each team was playing dry weather football. The commentators were talking about, hey, it's so wet, just get the ball, hoof it down the other end and try and defend, but both teams were actually trying to play similar to talking about the analogy of a nil soccer match when people go, oh, it could be Dow. It's like, no, like one of the best games that you've ever seen there was Arsenal versus Man U back in the early 2000s, and there was 1,000 shots on goal and just no one scored. Similar to this one, there was so many try score opportunities.
No one cares about Arsenal or Manchester United, but
no one. I don't care about either of those teams either. But what I'm saying, trying to convey to those people that haven't seen this match, is that there were so many try score opportunities, including one for us in a second. But
there's also the Luke Lewis one down the line where he kicks it.
Yeah, Luke Lewis, and they were saying, why is he out on the wing from a scrum? Yeah, I'm not sure if he was getting some attention or what. But anyway, there was an eventual, where was it occurred? 30 as a forward pass, unfortunately, from so. Just after the 29th minute or so, Villanova dropped the ball again. It was scrum 10 metres out. The the tackle that forced the error, was a good tackle from Jason Bakuya, who just got on the field. Anyway, Townsend to Bird, swings it down the outside. It goes from Lewis to Townsend to Bird to Beale. Unfortunately, this great little shift to the right, which had basically a 2-on-1 overlap. Bird holds on for too long, takes one extra step too long, and throws a blatant forward pass, and the try is pulled back. So that would have got us 4-2 up. Probably should have been. Anyway, that put the Storm back on the attack. The Storm cowbell was going throughout. So
stupid cowbell.
That stupid cowbell's still there.
That still happening?
I don't know, actually. We'll find out this weekend. And there was a few more opportunities from the Storm that Slater dropped it from an outside-inside play they tried to pull off.
That was too ambitious.
Gus was saying, hey, they need to put that, the Sharks are too smart for that. They've got that covered, and they did actually. I think it was Wade Graham on the inside covering that off. They also were chatting about how which we'll talk about later, but Broncos had tabled a massive offer to Jack Bird during that week. And it also, Chris Heinington was the first player to play, or since Brad Fittler, only one of two in history to that point, that have played 200 matches for one club and 100 matches for another. So this was his 100th match for the Sharks when he came off the bench. Storm were just getting bulk relieving penalties, and then we had a few more dry weather football kind of swings. Townsend lost the ball on the attack, and then right on halftime, we'll cover it a bit more in the talking points. Will Chambers started a bit of a verbal stoush with Paul Gallen that quickly got Maloney and Graham.
It's on the NRL.com replay.
It does. It does right at the end of the half.
I think I just missed it because I remember thinking I think I just turned it off at half time and then forgot that this happened. So
have a look
again. Watching it on the replay, don't turn it off like I did, because
it doesn't show it doesn't show the full thing, but I remember watching it at Northeast with you and the Fox. I think it was the Fox coverage. It was going on for ages. So, and I think what had happened was Chambers maybe made mention to Asada or something. Gallen obviously gave him some lip straight away. Cronk was standing next to Chambers, was trying to pull him out of it, and then Wade Graham, I suppose, joined in because he's like, "Well, I've been in Cronk's back pocket and all over him for the last 40 minutes. Why not do some more?" And then Cronk started getting lippy, and someone grabbed a jersey, and it was all very heated. It was great. It's what you want. We want characters in this game, and added so much spice. I was like, okay, bring on the second half. Let's go. And so they did.
Maybe I did watch it through. I remember watching it back and being at the end of my watch back in preparation for this, thinking, oh, sure, there was some more fights or something in this match. Maybe the coverage, they don't show it all.
They cut. Unfortunately, the coverage on the NRL website for the 9 coverage just cuts it off. I think it's you see about 5 seconds. You see Gallen and Chambers start going, and then it cuts off. Where I remember the coverage was like they delayed going to the commercial break because they're watching us as they're going up the tunnel. And I think they even showed up the tunnel. There's even further stuff going on. Like it was Fafita got involved, and it was mainly Gallen and Chambers. And I remember when Will Chambers joined the Sharks in 2020, he was like, "Oh gosh, is Gallen even going to talk to me?" So maybe Gallen shouldn't have.
I didn't agree with him signing Chambers. I didn't like that at the time.
No,
I don't
that
know.
wasn't a good point.
After that.
Yeah. So eventually, there's more. The weather got even worse. You can see the crowd disappear out of the stands as they're basically having Melbourne's version of a Sharknado, which is probably every second day in Melbourne in winter anyway. So eventually we got down there and we got a penalty goal for ended up being a ruck infringement, but Finucane and Smith were all over Fafita, and it looked like Smith almost, after the referee called held, tried to trip him. So that was about 20 out right in front. We wisely took the penalty goal to go 2-2. But prior to that, earlier in that, about 8 minutes into the second half, the Storm had a penalty. It was about 30 out, just off to the right. The conditions were poor. They didn't take it. They could have gone 4-0 up. The commentary didn't even talk about it. They're just like, but in those conditions, gosh, go up in twos. Actually, they did talk about it later, going up in twos. But that was an interesting call. They didn't, and then they also had a try disallowed shortly afterwards from actually it would have been a repeat set and potentially a try, in that they claimed there was a knock on from Vunivalu when actually the replay showed that if they Storm had the ability to challenge, which they didn't at the time, would have resulted in another repeat set. And I think they had a shot if they regathered, it would have been pretty much a pick up and score. It was only the fact that the referee called it. So we were lucky there. We got back to 2-2, and then to speed things on a bit, we started to look a bit better again. Eventually, we popped a field goal to go 3-2 up. Maloney on the fourth tackle was standing very shallow.
This is brilliant, this field goal.
And it just shows the big game player that Maloney is. The commentary was lauding it. I think we'd had one shot prior. The Storm had an opportunity, but we'd also rushed it. But this one got them napping. Fourth tackle.
Are you sure they'd had a shot? I thought he bluffed it and they hadn't shot yet. No, they hadn't shot yet.
They hadn't
because
shot.
Because they were talking about it for the Storm to do it.
The Storm had set.
And then
I think
Joey...
they cronked it.
Yeah,
they didn't go with the shot. Yeah.
That's right. They didn't go for the shot. Whereas Joey called out that he thought Maloney was going for the shot. And then on the first or second tackle, it was terrific commentary from Johns and Gould for this set. And then Gould said, nah, Maloney's bluffing them. He's telling them to spread out. He's actually going to do it here. And then that's exactly what he did. And so he made it look like he was going to swing it. But he did it off a short kick. God, he was good, Maloney,
and he stabbed it. It wasn't a great-looking field goal, but it did the job. He stabbed it. It was a little kind of poke of a drop kick. To get us up 3-2 with 9 to go. About 15 minutes before that, I think it was in the 55th minute, a guy by the name of James Seguiaro entered the fray, replacing the young Jaden Bailey.
He made a big difference.
And he dynamited our dummy half, so much energy. In the wet, was scurrying at every opportunity, was asking questions. And then eventually, like not long after we went 3-2 up, Northies erupted. We're waiting to see how long injury time will go for with that kind of score. They were talking about Amy Park soccer, where the victory playing we got back downfield shortly afterwards, put a little grubber in, and ball went loose. There was 2 hands in there. One was Matt Pryor. Slater dropped it. There was 2 hands. One was Matt Pryor. One was James Seguiaro. And I remember at the time, I think
Slater's hand was there as well. It was really close.
Yeah, there was 3 hands involved, but there were 2. The 2 hands that touched it were Sharks players, and I think Matt Pryor went up claiming a try.
I agree with that. I'm pretty sure Billy Slater was second touching it, but James Seguiaro's hand's just a bit darker than Billy Slater's. So
maybe I'm going off the reaction in my memory, but the reaction I remember at the time was we thought that, or maybe the team had thought that Matt Pryor had scored. But then actually, you're right, in the replays it showed that there was a different coloured hand that had touched the ball, that being Seguiaro.
It's a shame that James Seguiaro didn't kick on for us more. He was such a good player for the...
Well, I think he'll be a talking point shortly.
But anyway, sorry, don't jump ahead, Williams.
Don't jump ahead. So anyway, we went. You can slide. Go to the next slide, or next point. But
that's right. Yeah. So Seguiaro gets that try in the 72nd minute, which is basically straight afterwards, wasn't it? Was that next?
Straight after we went downfield, and which was, I suppose, straight after points. What better way to do that, especially in those conditions, to go? We'll score the try. It was right in front. We kicked the goal, 9-2. Put the game.
Which match did the Sharks lose? Big match did the Sharks lose 9-2 in their history, Williams?
That would have been against Balmain.
Oh, look at you go.
In 1989. 88, sorry, 88.
88. Yep. All
right. So bring back memories of that. But the try was scored. We have given up a lead like that against Melbourne in 2012, where we gave up an 8-point lead with 2 minutes to go. Tries to Ryan Hoffman, and I think it was...
I remember Ryan Hoffman.
Scoring, I think it was almost a Warren Smith. I see it, but I don't believe it. You can take me, not quite the same level, but same level of excitement in the commentary, and we'd given that one up. So we'd almost sealed it here, but you never know with Melbourne. But 9-2 up, and then we got a late penalty goal as well to go 11-2 and secure a great win. And they were talking as well about Melbourne had gone an awful long time without losing at Amy Park, an awful long time without scoring a try. And funnily enough, the following season funnily enough, at home at Shark Park, the following year in 2018, we would have a similar win where we beat them at home without letting them score a try as well. So, a famous victory, our first win at Amy Park after many attempts prior to that. And it got our season going. I wouldn't say it got it back on track. We'll talk about the rest of the year shortly, but a really famous win, grand final rematch in every sense of the word, a cracker, and very, very proud and famous result, that one. Yeah,
we did definitely enjoy that one. All right, what are the other key talking points out of it?
Jack Bird, there was a lot of talk about him pre-game about his signature. Was he going to stay with the Sharks? The Eels and Knights had tabled big offers. There was, I think, the Knights were in the box seat, then the Broncos.
He played so well in this game, Jack
Yeah.
Bird. His defence. And he just looked like seeing him in this match and comparing him to the Jack Bird who played for the Dargons. He just looked so much more physically menacing in this match than he does now. He's a shadow of himself.
Well, so he started for us in 2015 as I suppose, it really came through the grades as like a centre/back rower, and it kind of ended up fitting in as a 5'8" in that team, given that we had Jeff Robson and we'd lost Todd Carney, and was it New Brown had got an injury, as it has had Kyle Stanley. So we were missing in that area. I think we even had Wade Graham play 5'8" in his debut game, as in Jack Bird's debut game. He came off the bench when we lost to the Titans, and then started the following week when we beat the Roosters. So he went there by
famous
default.
Roosters match.
Yeah, where he scored 2 tries, and including the outside-inside play with him and Luke Lewis, and him scoring the opening try. That they basically did identical play in the South semi-final in 2015 at Sydney Football Stadium. So 5'8", I don't think he ever was a 5'8", but great running back. He then got put back into the centres. There was a bit of disgruntledness in early 2016. If you remember, he was actually trying to... There was talk of Jack Bird... Be fullback, exactly. So there was talk of Jack Bird or Valentine Holmes being fullback over Ben Barber, which seems ludicrous now, but that was the talk pre-2016.
It was ludicrous then as well. I remember arguing with Franco about this being proven to be correct.
Completely agree.
Franco, I was right again.
There's the role of managers here too, and I think there was some talk about, I don't know if it was Jack Bird's dad or someone coming out in the media saying, no, he should be there, he's worth this much money. It's like, hang on, it's all these managers like Josh Addo-Carr's manager, even Valentine Holmes' manager, they go, no, he's the fullback. It's like, paying this much, no, he's a winger, or no, he's a centre, put him there. Similar to on a...
Now, we know that the impact you can have as a strong winger. I'm still convinced that the Shark wingers from the grand final won us the match.
This day and age, yes, a strong centre even. So anyway, Jack Bird had a good 2016 season where he's in and out, but early 17 there was a lot of heat on him. I think there was talk of in the days prior, Broncos had tabled a big offer, and they said, and I don't know how this works, I don't know who the Broncos coach was at the time, but he'd been promised 5'8". You could never say that to a player. Josh Schuster's trying to do it these days. We're like, I don't want to be a back rower. Sorry, mate, you're going to be where the team needs you most. And at the moment, no team needs you at all. So Jack Bird was copping a bit of stick there, but this game, he really showed his quality and his worth. Apart from that forward pass, he was flawless in the first half. He was the best, I'd say close to the best player on the field. Definitely the best centre. And
Wade Graham also had a very good game.
Yeah.
But so did Seguiara, was good when he came on. But it was the defensive setup. But I remember that. And Gould called it out in commentary. God, he was on fire in this game, Gould.
Yeah. And then looking at his career, and I know we touched on it earlier, and you see how he's at the Dragons these days. He hasn't kicked on. I did hear on the radio he's just played slightly more matches for the Dragons now that he's at Cronulla, but he only played 17 matches for the Broncos over several years. There was the talk of him being overweight over there, up there. There was I think he had an ACL injury, the poor bugger, and he's obviously had throughout his entire career or life, he's had that horror arthritis condition, and there's talk of how long a career is he actually going to have, given he's on very expensive medication to resolve that, and he's living with chronic pain, basically, which how you be a footballer through all those issues.
We definitely got the best years of Jack Bird.
Absolutely, and you look at value, yes, of course, like the Broncos.
And value for money, he would have been... Yeah. He probably would have been top of the tiers, Jack Bird, after this match, I reckon.
Yeah, so, I mean, we had him still on a bargain basement contract in 2015, 16, 17, and that's where the big upgrade was occurring. And he was the first one, I suppose, we lost to salary cap pressure and growth, but I think that he was massively overpaid with how he performed at the Broncos, and then eventually went to the Dragons. I do remember hearing him interviewed through the COVID years, though, and he actually, despite playing for the Dragons, expressed a desire, or twofold. He said that I think it was on the Chad Townsend podcast, actually, he said that he regretted leaving the Sharks, the way that it all happened, the way monies and everything, he had it all set there. And then also, too, he's going
to say that on the Sharks-friendly podcast, though, isn't he?
No, that's a big call to make, right? So a lot of people will stick to their guns. A lot of people are proud and go, no, of course I don't have any regrets. Obviously, he's got the humility there to turn around and go, actually, yes, I'm on a much more reduced contract now, but they were offering money that was similar to what the Broncos end up offering him, and it was that that position opportunity. That's why he went up there, and the whole thing didn't work. And I suppose that's had a hugely negative impact on his career, given that if he stayed at the Sharks and he went, okay, I'm a centre, let's stay here, or I'll move into the back row, where would he be now? I don't know. He might still be a really serviceable player. He might be a really serviceable bench player for us. We don't know. You don't know. But anyway,
Or he might have played 200 games at centre for the Sharks and be
exactly
trying to rival Andrew Ettingham.
Exactly. So it's all ifs, buts, maybes. So we don't know. But it was an interesting anecdote. Anyway, the side
Jack
point.
Bird.
All that money that Jack Bird was going to get, he went to the Broncos. We eventually gave to a guy called Josh Dugan. What were your
we got
thoughts?
better value out of Josh Dugan, didn't we?
Yeah, initially. I mean, it didn't end well for anyone, but I think initially Josh Dugan did provide a lot to the team in 2018 and 19.
He had a reasonable 2018 season.
Yeah, he was a lot tougher than people. Like, he obviously injury prone, but he had some really tough carries. Anyway, James Seguiaro, we signed. There was a lot of talk in the off season about this. It was talking. He'd gone to Leeds from Penrith, and Leeds weren't going to give him up, and they wanted a transfer fee. There was talk that if we paid a transfer fee, it's a real English thing or a European soccer thing, not a rugby league in Australia thing, that would come out of a salary cap. It would come off his wage. Eventually, an agreement was made, and Seguiaro joined the Sharks, I think, before the round 4 match against the Eels. So eventually he got across to us, and he came off the bench, and we were trying to replace Michael Ennis. Both Brayley and Seguiaro together are nowhere near close to Michael Ennis, but you're right, they provide something, and Seguiaro coming off the bench was dynamite, especially.
Well, I think individually they're nowhere near Ennis, but as a using two players rather than one, I thought we got a lot from Seguiaro coming off the bench. I thought
we did in, I suppose, live wireness. He was quick. The only thing with him, I suppose, is service out dummy half, and I suppose his attacking nous or smarts were nowhere near as good as Ennis's. So Ennis was his own player, his own right, where Brayley was coming through the grades, and since obviously now at Newcastle, Seguiaro provided a bit in attack. But I do remember as a fan,
I thought Seguiaro was pretty good.
I remember as a fan being frustrated with some of his last tackle options. That's all. I think he kind of came on when we're chasing the game. He was kind of your Hail Mary play, and it didn't.
Yeah, I remember he wasn't that good in the Cowboys match.
Yes,
that much.
So that was unfortunate there. He also only scored 2 tries for us across those 2 seasons. This was his first. The only other try he scored was off an intercept in round 1 of 2018 against the Cowboys, against his old club. He's another one of those players that came out of nowhere. He debuted in 2011. He was born in PNG, for those who are after a Papua New Guinean team. He was born there but raised in North Queensland. Played some big minutes and some big games and long seasons for the Panthers. He was probably one of the form hookers back in 2012, 2013, 2014. And then really dropped off the radar. He only played 4 matches in 2016 for the Panthers. Played 2 seasons for us, including 26 matches in 2018 before he kicked on to Brisbane and then on to Manly. Finished his career there in 2022 with 1 match. So thanks, James Seguiaro. Great game to score your first try in.
Great contribution, Seguiaro. On to the next.
Yeah. The halftime drama. We touched on that, but there's a picture of it. Go back if you can find some replays on it. It was just this game in a nutshell, and it was great. And I want to try and find the footage of Chambers and Gallen going at it in the tunnel. I believe the background, as we said before, was some Asada slurs, followed by maybe some expletives involving check out the grand final score and the like. But it was good as a Sharks fan for once to be on the, I suppose, the aggressor end and be the reigning premiers and be that team that can go. Good. Actually, we can
give it a bit of shtick.
And bully Melbourne, the team that beat us 28-0 in 08, to bully them. It's a great position to be in. It's a rare opportunity, and hopefully we do it again this weekend. The next one we'll go, that was a quick touch on. The conditions were horror. The commentary, a lot of it was about, hey, just get the ball, kick it downfield, and play the field position game, almost like rugby union. And both teams didn't. They were trying to use the football in the wet, and it was good to see. So, not quite Sharknado, but still good to win. It would have been interesting to see this match in the dry, given our attacking intent that we showed and how on we were, and
it would have been a totally different game. It certainly suited us being in the rain, I think.
Yeah. We played them, spoiler alert, we played them the following year at Amy Park in better conditions in 2018 and won as well. So I think that match finished, it was a bizarre score. I think it was like 17-14 or something. But we won that with 3 tries too. So would have been interesting in the dry, but good to see that win. And then the final one is our Melbourne record. So there's obviously one of our favourite players of all time, Tawira Nikau, who we lost to the Storm when they came into existence in early 1998. We haven't had a great record against them. We did have a good record at Olympic Park, as we're talking about on our regular Tuesday show. We won 4 matches. We lost 4 matches there. We probably could have won a few more. So they were tight ones. But Amy Park, terrible. Storm over the last, I suppose, our record over the last 15 years or so.
Terrible.
During their period. Yeah,
record against Storm, just period, is not good.
Yeah, but we have had some small periods where we did trouble them. So even when we weren't great, I'd say in 2018 we made the prelim final. We beat them twice that year, and before we lost to them in the prelim final when we were injury ravaged. We were at Gallen. Unfortunately, that one you can't put on one player. Paul Ricky Latelli dropped it in the first set, and Melbourne scored, and I was just like, we're on the back foot. That's pretty much game over right there. You can't start a match like that. But the match where we beat so we beat them in 2019 at Shark Park with everyone out. So I think we even had Ronaldo Militao, I think, was playing one of those wings there after he'd had a horror debut against the Broncos a few weeks before. We were missing everyone. We had Kyle Flanagan playing. I remember Braden Hamlin-Uele scoring a good try in that one. And the Storm was stacked. And I remember, I think it was Cameron Smith and Cameron Munster both having an argument on full time when they'd muffed their last tackle play. And we won that one 18-14. So we did trouble them at times, even when we were out of form and even when we were out of, like, our stocks were low. So hopefully we get that form back after our horror showing last year. Any thoughts or any key matches that you like to kind of hark back on, I suppose? We've only won down there 6 times in our history.
I just basically remember us always losing, and just that's why I'm tipping against them this week. I just don't think we have ever really done well against the Storm. I got a reasonable record for the ones that I've gone to watch down there, but just such a difficult team to beat. So just so well disciplined.
Yeah, I haven't
seemed to get us.
Yeah, I haven't seen them win in Melbourne live. I know you have in 08, so we'll cover that game later. But we had some good wins earlier in our existence down there when they were good. I mean, they've been good throughout their entire existence, except for 01, 02 when they missed. They were the only 2 years they missed the finals, apart from 2010 with the salary cap thing. So hopefully we turn that around. We'll carry on to the fallout.
The fallout from the rest of the season.
Yeah, so there's the scorecard. 11-2. I actually thought this game finished 9-2. I forgot about the last penalty goal. I think we were already celebrating. But the rest of the year,
I think we were. Yeah, I think we were singing the song now early, and
but the rest
great match to go out on.
Rest of the year, Melbourne just kept on keeping on. They trounced to victory in the grand final when the Cowboys, who were severely depleted, had a miraculous run.
The Melbourne Storm only lost 3 more matches that season.
Yeah, only 3 matches that year. Didn't really look like losing.
Up, weren't they?
They were having Slater back in, so they basically had the same team as the year before, with the benefit of putting Munster at 5'8" and putting Slater at fullback. So that's like a cheat code there, where we had some good wins over some quality opposition, and we had some horror losses against some terrible opposition. We'll touch on that more later. And then the semi-final or quarter-final against the Cowboys, which we won't.
We just blew it in that game.
Yeah. Oh, we blew it, and I think it was an attitude of that whole season where.
Yeah, it was an attitude. I remember Gould saying it in commentary. The Sharks are still partying.
It seemed that way, and it was really disappointing, given that we had the opportunity to, and you could. This game showed it.
Yeah,
we're going to cover.
We were done as soon as Ben Barber got done.
We're gonna.
We were the top team for 3 weeks.
This team, you're right. This team was without Barber, without Ennis, was not going to win the grand final, but we could have.
I reckon this team, without Ennis and Barber, is still better than the current team. This team was good.
Yeah, it's the forward pack, right? It's quite across the board. It's Maloney was a proven competitor, although throughout that year he was, I suppose, starting to throw stones and kick up a stink over him not being upgraded. He'd signed.
Yeah, he wanted the 3-year contract, so he's starting to be a bit of a pork chop, which didn't help.
It didn't help. The 2017 Maloney was infinitely different in the wrong way compared to the 2016.
Yeah, he wasn't
Maloney.
as good. He was still the 2017 end of year Maloney wasn't as good as he was still good at this point. So
Yeah. So anyway, we've got Rad on for 54 minutes over a
oh,
match
this
that
has
they've
been our
involved.
longest. So for a
Only
match that ended
involved one
11-2,
try
didn't
with
have
one
that many
try.
talking points.
But
It's
yeah,
certainly had a lot for us to talk about, hasn't it?
for those that want to talk about 2017 more, I know that we did put the 08 game on ice because we've already touched on other 08 games. Next week, obviously Magic Round, we're going to be playing against the Roosters at Suncorp. We've only played the Roosters at a handful of neutral venues over the years. One specific one also happened in 2017, also involved an out of character or maybe an in character, depending on which way you look at it, performance. So we're going to cover that one next week with Chris Kelly, who was there, who's the closet Roosters fan that he is, where we pumped them later in 2017. So we'll chat more about 2017 then. But this one was definitely a highlight of the last decade against the Storm. So thanks for that, David. It was good fun.
As a nice trip down memory lane, and thanks for coming down to Northeast to watch this one with me, Williams.
Thanks, mate. It was a
good
pleasure.
fun day. It's a good
Yeah,
fun day, this one. And we're still believing at this stage.
we were both
Back.
partying. We're both part. I think this game, it was a kind of extended party. It's always good to beat Melbourne. We beat them twice in a row for I don't know when we'd last done that. And then also the fact too that it made us look like contenders again. I think I did actually believe. I was like, oh, actually, Seguiaro's
Still
here.
believe.
Holmes is at fullback. What can we go back to back? No one had gone back to back since the Broncos in the early '90s, and then obviously it all fell away. But anyway, thanks everyone for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Hit the like and subscribe buttons as always. Tell your mates if you're being interviewed at Shark Park by Dane Wheeler or someone else. Just shout out and go, hey, I listen to the ET Stand. You should too. But thanks, guys. If you've got any recommendations, requests, memories of this match, please send them through. Get them in. Get in the comments. Anyway, we'll let you guys go before we hit an hour, but we'll close out with some up Cronulla. Cheers, guys. Up.